And this is where Belfast gets its name from. And there's a word in the Irish language which describes this quite well. And the word is bell, B-E-A-L. And translated into English, that means at the mouth of or at the ford of. And the two of them together, Belfast-June, anglicised over the years until today we arrive at Belfast, and that's how our city gets its name. Now we're just going to make our way down into the Titanic quarter. We're going to take you down into the shipyards and let you see where the Titanic was made and launched from. We shall then take you further into the shipyards. We shall then be recently just spent £9 million having it completely restored, and if you've any interest in the Titanic whatsoever, that little ship to your left, the SS Nomadic, is a must visit while you're here in the city. Directly of 1.5 to 2 hours, on saying that you can easily spend the whole day inside the Titanic Visitor Centre. We will be stopping in hotel, but at one time that used to be the drawing office of Harland and Wolff. It's inside this building. To give you an idea of the size of the Titanic, she was just over 900 feet in length. She was 95 feet wide. She weighed 46,000 tons. She was driven by 3 massive bronze propellers, each propeller 23 feet in diameter, and each propeller weighing just over 5 tons in weight. So it gives you an idea of how big the Titanic actually was. Now we're just going to turn here outside the Titanic Visitor Centre. Letting run about 3/4 of a mile to the left-hand side is the George Best City Airport, and anyone flying into the airport or out of the airport looking down into the shipyards will see all the famous ships that were once built here. Probably the 2 most famous names in Northern Ireland, George Best and the Titanic. One was a disaster, the other one sank. Only kidding you, George, I still love you. That is where you will find the wall that lists all the names of the people who lost their lives in the Titanic disaster. Would you believe that this year was the 110th anniversary of the sinking of RMS Titanic. RMS, Royal Mail Ship. And of course, you don't need me to tell you the story about the Titanic. You all know the story, of course. She hit the iceberg with a heavy loss of 1,522 lives. We'll see the little guard in just a moment. That's the little garden just coming up here on your right hand side. There it is, just immediately to your right. So all it remains for me to say is enjoy the rest of your stay here in Belfast.
They put me to work on 401. That's what we called her. We knew she'd be the largest passenger ship in the world, but we didn't call her Titanic then.
I was there from the beginning. I watched the shipwrights lay the keel blocks. They set big wooden blocks on the slipway to start with, then the keel at top of it, like a backbone, and the frames attached to that, like a skeleton.
Workshops everywhere. It took weeks to find your way around. There'd be workshops for every trade you ever heard of. Painters, sailmakers, coppersmiths, boiler makers, cabinet makers. I even learned a bit about French polishing off them.
Harnham was a fine place to work, but dangerous. Every ship cost a life, and there'd be lots of injuries besides.
I was in the engine works for a while. Very well equipped it was. That's where we built the triple expansion engines. 2 of them, each as high as a 3-story house.
I worked in the frame bending shop. You'd heat steel beams in the furnace, then hook them onto slabs of cast iron and hammer them curved. It was skilled work. You had to bend them more than you needed because the frame straightened out a little when it cooled.
The shell plates that made up the hull weighed up to 4.5 tons. They were taller than the da.
The plates were overlapped on the edges. Some were raised, one after another. We called it clincher. One of the foremen told me years ago, that's how you built these ships.
I worked as a heater boy. You had to heat the rivets on a wee plate. You pumped the bellows till the rivet was white hot. Then you get a hold of it with your tongs and throw it up to the catcher. And he put it in the hole in the plate for the holder up. There were 2 of us on the other side of the plate to the holder up. We had to hammer the rivet so it filled the hole before it turned dull red. The double bottom. That's a wee space we called the tanks, made up of steel plates. The rest of the rivet squad all had to fit into that gap. One of the foremen would check each rivet with a special hammer. If it made a ringing sound, we'd have to get back and chase it out afterward. I'd get scared working down in that double bottom. You only had candles for light. And the constant hammering against the shell plates. You could hear it all over Belfast. Some of those boys ended up stone deaf, so they did. We were paid 31 bob a week. The heater boy and catcher got 16 bob. But we all worked the same 54 hours.
The upper deck was steel too, and part of the strength of the ship. There's no straight lines in a ship, and when you look down the weather deck, you could see the shear of the hull, but stopped her flexing at sea. The stern frame had to be strong enough to take the rudder turning in heavy seas. You'd have all these timbers and guy wires to steady the frame, and men scurrying around like ants underneath. When we came to launch day, I was torn between pride and fear. The standing ways were coated in tallow, train oil and soft soap, so the ship would slide when they shifted her weight off the blocks. That was the most dangerous part. When the shipwrights were knocking away the last props, they were under compression, you see, and the sliding ways would be released by the hydraulic trigger. 100,000 people watched the launch. Some paid a bob to sit Be an island man that day. And Titanic was the pride of Belfast.
Thank you for joining us. The tour will end in a few seconds.
she departed Belfast for Southampton. She was preceded by a considerable weight of expectation. At Southampton, the White Star Line had already constructed a massive deep-water ocean dock, covering almost 16 acres and dredged to a depth of 40 feet. England's premier passenger port was flourishing, with new ships.